This whole chapter is basically about Tamari. Um, Also, I recorded the second half and this in the morning right before school, so that's why my voice is deeper, like in the last couple of minutes. I hope you enjoy. If you do, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button, subscribe, comment Q, or any other comments you may have. Roll the intro.
And today thinking myself
I'm sorry if you can hear the rain in the background. Hiruzen had gathered the council for a meeting to discuss the rather surprising offer he received from Sonogakure for the renewal of their alliance. After he dissolved the civilian council, what remained was the heads of various shinobi clan heads and the elders, Hamura and Koharu, along with Danzo as well. After reading the scroll out, he put it down, gauging the reactions of the council. Koharu quietly commented, "This is certainly interesting. It seems our esteemed colleagues in Sonogakure wish to make amends for their foolishness." Hamaru snorted. "Of course they do. Recent reports suggest that Iwagakure is testing their borders. If they don't make amends with us, Iwa will crush them. However, we cannot let Iwa get a strategic advantage such as that, even if we have another flash among us." Now, surprising everyone, Danzo spoke up. It would be in our best favor to enter it would be in our best interest to accept. Upon seeing the rest of the council look at him in mild shock, he internally sighed and continued. "As you're all undoubtedly aware, I would prefer to simply crush them outright for their betrayal, but circumstances argue against it. Since we cannot push them without drawing attention from other countries, especially Iwa, I see no harm in accepting a deal that will benefit Konohagakure far more than Sonogakure." "Logically, you're correct, Danzo," Aburame Shibi droned in the usual Aburame tone. "This offer does seem to be to our advantage, but I find your stance puzzling. You have always patronized for Uzumaki to be trained by you as a weapon. Accepting this offer would seem to directly counter the position you've held for a nearly decade and a half." Danzo considered how to respond and replied, "It is true that I wanted him to be trained as a weapon." Hiruzen picked up on his friend's choice of words. "Wanted?" Danzo knew what context his old rival was talking about. "Yes, wanted. At first, I had worries that he would grow up to be weak, average shinobi or worse, a straight idiot. But he has proven his strength in the invasion, stopping a tailed beast very effectively without resorting to his own. He is the second coming of his father." That was all he needed to say on the subject. It was a well-known fact just how much Namikaze Minato was feared. While the short term he was Hokage, no nation dared to make during the short term he was Hokage, no nation dared to make a move against Konoha. If Konoha had someone who was just as powerful as the Yondaime, he could sleep without any worry. Moving on, he cleared his throat. Sonogakure is now offering the daughter of their late Kazekage, but all reports a powerful Kunoichi in making, in a marriage to Uzumaki. He smiled grimly. "I suspect that Sonogakure has discovered the boy's heritage." "Troublesome," muttered Shikaku. "If they hadn't discovered Uzumaki's heritage, this deal would be completely in our favor. I remember this Tamari girl from the exam. She seemed to have a good head on her shoulder. On top of that, she's a very proficient wind style user, which is quite rare in Konoha. The deal is even out if they know Naruto's heritage. Marrying the children of two Kage will produce exponentially powerful children, not counting the fact that Naruto is the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, and his children will no doubt be influenced by its power. But they don't know that." Everyone sat back to consider his words and examine the agendas behind the offer. Hiruzen, meanwhile, was contemplating what effects would this have on Naruto. He was asking for a lot from Naruto by asking him to do this. He was sacrificing the boy's chance at love by arranging a marriage from him with a person he didn't even know. A huge weight suddenly made itself known on his shoulder, and he sighed in sadness. Sometimes he hated being the Hokage. Decisions such as these, putting the good of the village before his shinobi, made him sick to the bone. He knew Naruto would never forgive him for this. At this point, I don't see any options but to accept this offer. It is slanted too far in our favor to decline without tipping our hand regarding the boy's heritage. If we choose to decline by announcing that heritage, I have no doubt Kumogakure and especially Iwagakure will react unfavorably, he announced with a heavy heart. We also need the boy to produce more Uzumaki as possible future containers for the QB, if not outright shinobi for our future ranks, Danzo added, but before he could continue, a heavy potent killing intent flooded the room. You're going too far, Danzo, Hiruzen whispered with narrowed eyes. We already have placed a heavy burden on him by making the Jinchuriki by making him Jinchuriki against his will, which he knows, mind you. He knows his heritage and he knows that his own father cursed him to this life. I think I can safely say on his behalf that he would sooner set the QB free rather than making his own progeny the jailers of the beast. Danzo grit his teeth. He will do what is asked of him by the village. Hiruzen snapped back. I have no intentions of asking him to do that. I'm also sure that neither does the Hokage. Remember Danzo, he warned his rival. If you push him too far, you will lose him. For him, his family will always come before the village. Until he becomes Hokage. Went unsaid. Danzo put his blank mask on again, but it was seething inside. Uzumaki's children would have made some very valuable additions to his ranks of rude, but it seemed Hiruzen wasn't willing to go that far. Looked like he would just have to wait for a few years. Hiruzen turned to the council. Since we are all in agreement, let us send our response. 3 days back, Sonogakure. Baki looked over with increasing annoyance as the meeting of Sonogakure advisor council went on. His growing frustration was mainly due to the tactless arguments, more like shouting, weren't arriving on any conclusive course of action. He tuned them out, instead choosing to focus on Tamari's report of her brother's defeat. It was a shock of great magnitude to him when he had heard that Gaara had been soundly defeated. He shook his head mentally. Just great. We have a situation that requires us to act as quickly and decisively as we can, and those fools can't seem to agree on anything at all. It was quite fortunate that the Sand had managed to work out a ceasefire with the Leaf, but Baki knew it was temporary at best. Konoha would not hesitate to retaliate if any of Suna's shinobi so much as scowled at them. Tensions were high, and Suna needed something to convince Konoha of their sincerity in drawing up a new alliance treaty. Baki cringed as he thought about the reports from the teams stationed at the Wind-Earth borders. More than average number of EVA shinobi had been showing up. While not up to anything, Baki would be betting that EVA was testing their borders, looking for any weaknesses. In the worst case scenario, Iwa would conquer Suna, which meant that they would practically be neighbors with Konoha. Given the history between those two countries, it would signal the start of the Fourth Great Shinobi War. With a sigh, he took a sip of his steaming tea to calm himself down a bit, while trying to think up of a way to regain Suna's military alliance with Konoha. Absently, he mentally recounted just how they lost. They invaded Konoha. Konoha's forces were ready. Orochimaru attacked the Sandaime Hokage. Tamara and Kankuro took Gaara into the forest, followed by the Uchiha. Gaara went crazy, unleashed Shikaku, stopped by the giant. The Epiphany hit him with such force that he almost spat out the tea he was drinking, almost scrambling for Tamari's report. He flipped pages until he found what he was looking for. Gaara was cleanly and efficiently defeated by Uzumaki, or is it Namikaze Naruto? There was the answer and the epiphany he was looking for. Namikaze Naruto, son of the legendary Yondaime Hokage, a child of the Hokage, savior of the Leaf. Pieces of a plan rapidly came together in his mind, forming a picture that was not the best solution, but perhaps the only solution they had at the moment. He stood up, clearing his throat to gather everyone's attention. Honorable members of the council, some new facts have come to my attention, and I believe I have found a solution to our current problem. He had the undivided attention of some of the most political powerful people in Suna. He could not afford to go back now, nor could he afford to make a single miscalculation. As you may all know, Iwa is currently testing our borders. Our only solution to this problem is to somehow regain our alliance with Konoha. This is the only way we can buy enough time to recover from the losses of our forces. This is where our problems currently stand. How do we prove we won't betray Konoha again? A twinge of satisfaction rose up inside Baki as he saw the winces from several of the council members, reminding them that they had indeed betrayed Konoha. falling into Orochimaru's manipulations. Mutters were rising as the members considered his point. Baki took a deep breath and relaxed. The next statement was going to create tides. "If I may have your attention once more," he spoke over the mutters, silencing them. "I am not finished yet. Before having an alliance with us, Konoha had an unshakable with another village. The village hidden in the world. Oh, an unshakable. I don't know. Bond. I don't know. An unshakable treaty with another village. The village hidden in the whirlpools. We need to procure back that level of an alliance with our former ally." Yoshin, one of the more senior members of the council and one of the people who Baki actually respected for his relatively sensible argument, spoke up. "How do you propose we do that, Baki?" Baki stared dead in his eyes. "We followed the same procedure that they did to achieve what they were able to achieve." Seeing some confused faces in the council, Baki elaborated. The alliance between Konoha and Uzushigakure no Sato was sealed by a marriage between the Shodai Hokage and a woman named Uzumaki Mito. The alliance lasted for decades until Uzushigakure fell to the combined attacks of Kuma and Iwa. We can use the tradition to regain our alliance, which might be stronger than our previous one. He was pleased to see that some of the members were actually thinking upon this. However, one of them stood up, almost foaming at the mouth. Hiroto Renji was someone who always made Baki wonder just how he managed to get on the council. He was a hot-headed person, exploding over the smallest of arguments, and had none of the tact that was required to play the incredible subtle game of politics. Also, he took utmost glee in pointing out faults at other members, while he himself never participated actively in any argument. Baki suspected that Ranji feared looking too stupid. "You can't possibly be serious. Look, like you said only moments ago," he sneered while saying, We need to recover our forces from the invasion, which means we need every shinobi we have. Why would we offer one in the first place? And why would they accept it in the first place?" Baki resisted the urge to rub his head at the moment. It seemed rather rude. "I thought it was quite obvious, council member, that given the history between the two, Konoha cannot afford to have Iwa at their doorsteps." Before Renji could blow up once again, another member spoke up, the slightest hints of irritation in his voice. "Just what are you trying to tell us, Baki?" Baki picked up the retorts written by Tamari of the fight that took place between Naruto and Gaara. "I'll summarize this for you, as you all don't have this and it would take a long time for everyone to read this." Tamari stated in her report that Gaara was, quote, "soundly defeated by a single genin, even after he had fully manifested his Biju." He almost rolled his eyes at the exaggerated reaction that followed. She states that Uzumaki Naruto, the aforementioned genin, could create water out of thin air and listen to this carefully. Flash to places faster than she could even begin to follow. He briefly put the report down to add to his point. "When I say flash, I mean it in the literal sense, council members." He resumed from where he had left off. He then summoned a massive dark blue fox of all things, with 7 tails, that was almost as large as Shikaku. Baki looked up again. Now, we don't know why Uzumaki has a summoning contract for foxes. So, could it be that he's the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi? Everyone turned to look at the council member who said it. Baki thought hard about how to reply. The speculation was actually quite considerable. Why else would someone be able to summon foxes? "It could be," Baki carefully said, slowly as to emphasize the point. "But we don't have any evidence to substantiate the speculation. I have to stress on this, council members. Do not hold on to speculations. For all we know, the boy could have stumbled upon it by accident. As I said, there was nothing that pointed towards Uzumaki having the Kyuubi inside him. Not even a wisp of a demonic chakra, as the trademark feeling everyone gets when near a Jinchuriki." Baki was uncomfortable with this topic, so he decided to move on. Moving on, a relatively recent report suggested that he is the apprentice to Jiraiya of the Sannin. They were both spotted traveling together through a town. Yoshin once again raised a valid argument. It could be that they were simply on a mission together. Nothing you say points towards the claim of being an apprentice. Baki concluded the point with a nod. Indeed, it could be that as well. But keep in mind that in the past, no reports have ever stated that Jiraiya-sama needed someone with him on a mission, given how powerful he is. Why would he allow anyone to travel with him unless they were being trained or taught by him? Also, he was highly proficient in Funjutsu, just like Jiraiya-sama is. Yoshino nodded thoughtfully and sat back down. Baki continued with his previous statement. As I was saying, he seems to be the apprentice to Jiraiya-sama. And speaking of apprentices, I believe you are all aware as to who the last apprentice of the man was. Thankfully, everyone nodded. Baki rested his arms on the table. This was the crux of this argument. To those who were not present at the training exams, which was everyone including himself, Uzumaki Naruto has been revealed to the world as Namikaze Minato's only child. He dropped the bomb on them, waiting to see their reaction, and they were just like he expected them to be. Most of the members' jaws dropped in disbelief. Some even choked on thin air. A few sensible members such as Yoshin were taking deep breath, trying to force rational thought as to how this was possible. Renji was the only one who was shaking his head, whispering under his breath, "This can't be. This can't be." A member asked after regaining their wits, "Do you have any evidence to substantiate your claim?" The question was asked slowly, for the members still had difficulties believing the latest revelation. Baki wordlessly picked up his file again and flipped to the photo of Naruto. He then put the file on the table in such a way that everyone would be able to see. It only took a moment for everyone to connect the dots. Yoshino shook his head in a slight wave. "Looks like you were right, Baki. He really does look like his father." Baki added with a smirk. "Not only that, but he can use a Hiraishin no Jutsu just like his father." "But what does this have to do with us regaining our alliance?" Baki grinned as he put his personal proposal forward. "It should be quite obvious by now. We offered Tamari in a marriage as a gesture of good faith on our part." Renji frowned. "Why Tamari? She's the daughter of our late Hokage and is quite skilled. Couldn't we offer someone else less significant?" Baki looked at Renji, fully intent on shutting him up. "Believe me, council member, when I say this. If we're going to offer a marriage proposal to someone as important as Namikaze Naruto, we have to ensure that the person from our side is of equal status as him. Naruto and Tamari both are children of a Kage. Any children that would result from their marriage would become formidable shinobi when they grow up. We can insert a clause stating that their eldest child must become the legend for both of our villages after becoming a chunin." Baki could have said that their eldest child should be married back into Suna, but they were in no position to make any demands from Konoha. It was best to stay on the safe side and make him/her a legend after becoming a chunin, or dual citizen. Also, the news of the Namikaze having an heir would have probably reached Iwa by now, given how much the son is like the father and how Iwa feared him. Their safety could be guaranteed. Or Iwa would probably try to assassinate Naruto before he became too powerful for their liking. But that was a risk they had to take. Regain the alliance or face Iwa alone. The council pondered over Baki's proposal. It was more than enough to gain back their alliance. Perhaps Konoha was benefiting too much from this, but they had no other choice to offer Konoha as much as they can. Like Baki, they came to the conclusion that they really weren't in a position to demand anything from Konoha, but they would have a powerful ally once again, with powerful shinobi in their command. Soon, everyone came to an agreement and the decision was made final. The offer was sent, proposing a marriage contract to the Konoha Council. All they had to do now was wait. "What did you say?" The yell echoed throughout the building, the rage in it clear for all those who hear it. Tamari gave her hottest glare yet to Baki, who was standing right in front of her, and her siblings doing their best not to show any nervousness or fear. Unsurprisingly, Kankuro found himself hiding from his sister Raph, behind the back of his younger brother.
The former was quite old. Kankuro had hid from his sister a number of times in the past, for he was quite scared of her. Whenever she got angry, she was her usual outlet for that anger, for neither of them dared to get close to Gaara. Only the spot to hide had changed. Ever since they had returned to their home, Kankuro had seen an incredible change in Gaara. Gaara had stopped threatening everyone who came in his sight, and wasn't radiating bloodlust constantly. Perhaps the best thing was that he hadn't killed once upon his return from Konoha. However, The one part that didn't change was that Gaara never got afraid of Temari when she was enraged. Kankuro knew Gaara had no grasp of how to interpret certain feelings, but time heals all wounds. Anyway, the point was that his sister was enraged beyond all belief, and he was using Gaara as a human shield. Temari was not in the best of moods as she stood in front of her sensei, carefully regaining her anger. She managed to keep her voice steady as she spoke. "Why are you doing this to me?" Baki kept his face carefully neutral, trying to not show the pity he felt for his soon-to-be former student. Pity was the last thing Temari needed right now. This reaction was not exactly unexpected. In fact, I was more worried about how Gaara would react. It's nothing short of a miracle he hasn't used sand burial on me already. He took a deep breath and began his explanation. "This is a direct order from the council itself, Temari. We need this to cement our alliance with the Leaf once more." Temari grit her teeth, unwilling to just lose like this. "So you will just offer me like a lamb to be sacrificed? Wasn't there any other way?" Baki shook his head sadly. "I'm sorry, Temari, but there was no other way. Do you think this order would have gotten passed if there was?" Temari just wanted to scream her throat out, so that's not what it said, but I'm not about to go there. So much injustice was being done to her, and she couldn't do anything about it. What was worse, that they seemed to think she was the only one who could perform this duty, and they were right. Conquer was too much of an idiot to do this, and the village would sooner sacrifice their shinobi than give up their Jinchuriki. Never minding the fact that Gaara was a former bloodlusting psychopath, so there was a dense air of mistrust around him. She painfully reminded herself that a shinobi's duty is to endure and sacrifice for their village, no matter what the circumstances. "I don't like this, but I know that I have to do my duty, sensei." Baki smiled sadly and nodded. "That you do. Has my future husband been decided?" Baki considered whether or not to tell her. However, before he could say anything, Gaara spoke up. "I want to know as well, Baki." Okay, now there was no way to back out of this. Even though Gaara restrained himself greatly from killing anyone in his sight, Baki was not going to take a risk. Gaara's newfound protectiveness from his siblings was apparent, and it was nothing short of a miracle that he hadn't killed Baki for giving his sister away to Konoha just like that. Clearing his throat, he simply answered the question. Yes. He sweat a little when he saw 3 sets of eyes looking at him expectantly. One was pure curiosity, the other was curiosity mixed with suspicion, and the last one was impatience and rage, combined with acceptance. You can guess who they are. Temari tapped her foot in irritation. "Well, out with it. Who is it?" Baki took a deep breath. "Here goes nothing. He is the same person who defeated Gaara. You may know him as Namikaze Naruto." Temari blinked, and blinked again, and blinked another time. Her thoughts drifted back, and that's where we ended, guys. I hope you've all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all in the next part. Roll the outro.
Wanted a bitch who was on the move, but you wanted goddamn late. Got that one in my bed and she just wanna sleep. Fucking up all of the sheets. She only wake up to eat. Do this shit every week. Like, why you do that? Crying, you wanna be great, but sleeping until the next day. Why you do that? Got that much in the bank. We go out, she order the steak. Why you do that?